Today's lesson is 8-7, solving inequalities. The good news is if you can solve an equation, you can solve an inequality. It's not much different. The only difference is the sign inside. So inequalities will have a sign like this, equations have a sign like this, but they are solved the exact same way. Now before we start, let's just go back and remember how we did this again. Writing, because this was an important part of the last assignment you had. You're going to look at the key words here. This says you need to read at least 30 pages. X 30. So then you're going to go find at least, and you're going to say, okay, at least is greater than or equal to, so your inequality that represents reading more than or at least 30 pages as X is greater than or equal to. Debbie shot less than 100 baskets. X represents how many baskets Debbie shot. Hundreds are base number. So if Debbie shot less than 100 baskets, it would look like this. This would represent how many baskets Debbie shot. If there are more than 12 people in class, okay, X is going to represent how many people you have in class. 12 is going to be our base number, kind of what we're basing our information off of. There are more than 12 people in the class. More than would be greater than, and this inequality would represent the people in your class. So the first thing I want you to put in your notebook is adding and subtracting inequalities. Like I said before, it's solving the exact same way as an equation. So if this says y minus 5 is greater than negative 6, my goal is to get this by itself, so I need to get rid of this. So I'm going to add 5 to this side, and I'm going to add 5 to this side. Now when you write your answer to an inequality, you have to have the greater than sign. You cannot make it an equal sign. And the reason is, as I talked about this in the last video, that inequalities have many, many, many answers, because that y right there is the solution set. So how many numbers could be in that spot? An equation would have an equal sign, meaning it would only be one answer. So the answer to this is y is greater than negative 1. And let's say I'd ask you to graph again. It would look something like this. It would be open, y is greater. This is how it would be graphed. Because I believe you're going to have to graph as well today, and I just want to refresh your memory on that. This side, it says x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 10. So I'm going to minus 5 from both sides. Again, my goal is to get x by itself. I'm going to minus 5. So x is greater than or equal to 5, meaning that if I would pick something out of the solution set, so let's say if x is greater than or equal to 5, if I pick 6, because 6 could be x. If I put 6 in up here, 6 plus 5 is 11. It's greater than or equal to 10. So anytime that you find a solution set, it should make this true. Any number that's in the solution set should make this true. And if you needed to graph it, it would be a closed dot, and it would go to the numbers that are bigger than 5. Okay, why don't you try this one by yourself? Goal to get this by itself. I'm going to minus 4. I'm going to minus 4. I have to actually do my keep change. BR is greater than negative 9. Careful with that keep change. It keeps showing up. Okay, so next thing we're going to talk about is multiplying and dividing inequalities. Again, solve the same way. So if I have 7f is greater than or equal to 21, I want f by itself. I'm going to divide by 7. I'm going to divide by 7. F will be greater than or equal to 3. On this side, I have u divided by 4 is less than 8. If I'm dividing, I have to multiply to get rid of that 4. So it would look like this. It'd be u is less than 32. Now, the one thing I have to stress is this big rule right here. And I remember talking about it last year and saying, if you have this rule in your notebook, circle it, star it, do whatever you need to do, because this is a super important rule that goes along with this lesson today. So make sure you have this in your notebook. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must switch the inequality sign, and make sure you get inequality in there, because some people would think that it would be positive or negative, but it's the inequality sign. So when multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you have to switch the inequality sign. So let me show you some examples of this. So I have x divided by negative 3 is less than 9. See how I'm multiplying by negative 3 here? And I'm multiplying by negative 3. That means that I have x, and this would be negative 27, but since I multiplied by that negative 3, this needs to switch. So this would be the answer. And the reason why we have to do that is because The inequality signs don't get the rules for multiplying and dividing fractions. They don't understand the way it works, and it doesn't understand the way our number line is set up. You see, the number line mirrors itself, or it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, or 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. It doesn't understand how our number line works. So we have to be the one to think for the sign. Let's try this one over here. I'm going to divide by negative 8. I'm going to divide by negative 8. Since I'm dividing by a negative number, then I have to switch the inequality sign. This is going to be negative 3. Let me show you a time when you do not need to switch the inequality sign. So if I have, okay, if I was going to solve this, I would divide by 4. Notice my 4 is positive. I'm going to divide by 4. Notice how it's positive. Then I don't have to switch the sign. Even if this is negative, I don't have to switch it. This bottom has to be the negative one to switch. So it'd be f is less than or equal to negative 3. So basically, if the number with the variable is negative, you have to switch the sign. What about this? Do I have to switch this? If you said yes, you're correct, because I'm going to multiply by negative 2. I'm going to multiply by negative 2. See how that number with yours with the variable was negative? That means I have to switch the sign. So it's going to be u is greater than or equal to, should be a positive, oops, should be a positive 8. So make sure you have that written down in your notebook with a few good examples. Here's a few more. Most of these you could probably do in your head. This one, do I have to use my big rule? Nope, there's no negative with the number with the variable. Over here, do I have to use my big rule? Yes, because that 4 is negative with the variable. So just know when you have to use it and when you don't. Here's a few other ones to try by yourself that have fractions and decimals in them. Don't let that scare you. So if I have d minus 9.3 is less than 12.5, I'm going to add 9.3. I'm going to add 9.3. Get 8, 11, 9, 21.8. Remember, there's no need to change any inequality signs when you're adding or subtracting. It's only the multiplying and dividing. This one over here, it says 14.5 is less than b minus 1.5. I'm going to plus 1.5 on this side. I'm going to plus 1.5 on this side. Notice how I'm keeping everything in order. Some people get confused about what order that the inequalities has to be in. Sometimes it's okay if your number is over here. See how the number's first and the variable is second? That will get people in trouble sometimes. Some people don't like their variable second. If you don't like your variable second, it's okay. You can change it. Now just watch. If you want to change your variable and your number, that's fine. But this also has to switch. So notice how like the little sign is, or the little side is pointing towards the 16. You still have to have the little sign pointing towards the 16 when you flip them around. If you have more questions about that, that's something we can talk about in class together. All right, that's all I have for you today. Solving inequalities, like I said, same thing as an equation. So if you can solve an equation, you can definitely solve inequalities. Please let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate you watching till the end, and we'll see you in class.